Sending mental health help instead of someone with a gun. A program replacing police on some calls in Denver looks to expand. Hanging Lake, that magnet for hikers, is also a bit of a mystery as to why it even exists. The lesson that students are learning as our mask debates devolve into shouting about Nazis and a sniper on the roof. And a college goes looking for the perfect candidate willing to make an ass of itself publicly.
On the backs of burros, this state was built.
Time to give those donkeys some respect. Next. Some 911 callers want and need help from an armed officer. In other cases, we have seen and police acknowledge the last thing the situation calls for is someone with a gun. The STAR program in Denver sends a paramedic and a public health professional to certain 911 calls. Full disclosure, Next viewers help fund that program's nonprofit side during the startup stage through Word of Things. The STAR program's leaders now want to expand, and they say they have the receipts to prove their approach works. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
The STAR van has responded to 1,600 calls since June last year, sending a paramedic and mental health professional instead of a police officer to specific types of 911 calls.
Welfare checks, syringe disposal, suicidal crisis where someone is not in imminent risk.
Carly Salon is the STAR operations manager. The support team assisted response does not currently cover all of Denver. Right now, one van is available in Denver Police District 6, downtown, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The program is seeking to expand. More vans, more teams, covering all of the city, eventually 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
We hope to have 6 by the end of the year, and that should certainly be able to cover the need of the city.
Out of 1,600 calls, police have only been needed twice.
It suggests to me that we are appropriately responding to behavioral health concerns as they're coming into the 911 call center.
Jeff Holliday is the public health manager for the city's Office of Behavioral Health Strategies. He's been keeping track of citywide calls that STAR could respond to if STAR was available citywide. Instead of 1,600 calls in DPD's downtown District 6, STAR could have responded to 7,600 calls in any part of the city.
Clearly, the fact that we've served over 1,600 residents, and only 2 of those have had follow-on requests for uniformed officer, is a success.
STAR now has $3.8 million in funding, part from the city, part from grants.
We have not taken any money from the police budget. We have not run this as a defund the police program. We actually have had a long working history with DPD. 34% of our calls are actually police showing up on scene first and requesting for STAR to come take over the call. So this is very much an and, not or.
Those 2 cases I referenced out of the 1,600 where an officer was needed, according to Salon, it was not for a safety issue. It was not to make an arrest, but simply to answer some information that the STAR team could not. So still, we have a perfect record, according to the city, about STAR showing up and no arrest needed and no safety issue.
You hear them reference it's not about defunding police, necessarily moving money out of the police budget. And you'll hear law enforcement say, if we're spending our time being social workers or mental health counselors, it's not a good use of our resources.
It's a fraction of what police get, and police are freed up now with the STAR program to respond to more serious situations where you might need an arrest or you might need that officer.
Marshall, thank you. Colorado's been pushing the Biden administration to allow booster vaccines sooner and with more flexibility. Democratic Governor Jared Polis came out today and said that they're working on the White House to make boosters available 6 months after original shots instead of 8, and with a 60-day window to get those boosters. Well, no sooner than the governor said it, Wall Street Journal reported that the feds plan to recommend that.
We want to cast as wide as net as possible, whether you're at it 6 months ago or 8 months ago or 9 months ago. We want folks to be able to get vaccinated, particularly in our hard to reach communities who need the booster the most. One of the reasons we've been so successful in having one of the higher vaccination rates of the states, and therefore one of the lower COVID hospitalization and death rates, is because we're really going that extra mile to meet people where they are. And it will be the same with the booster campaign.
Based on an 8-month timeline approved by the FDA currently, then booster shots would begin the week of September 20th. If the decision is made to allow them at 6 months, the window would be now for the first Coloradans to have received their shots. As adults discuss and debate the time and place for masks in our schools, children are watching and listening and learning how to handle disagreements. Let's look at what young people would have learned from last night's school board meeting in Douglas County. They saw anti-mask mandate parents boil over with such anger the meeting had to be paused and a man escorted away from the board by a law enforcement officer. Multiple parents compared masks to the Nazi extermination of the Jewish people, talking about a masked Gestapo and saying we're heading for concentration camps. Kids watching the Delco School Board meeting learned that when a doctor talks about science you don't like, you stand and turn your back to signal your disapproval. And students also heard a former school board candidate claim there was a police sniper on the roof. As the school board took one of several breaks to cool off the crowd, someone shouted at them, "This is America." It is. And our kids are learning from us how to handle their disagreements. So you know the uphill climb that it is to buy a home in Colorado these days. The hill is steeper for Black and Latino Coloradans. Our Victoria De Leon looks at the reasons why.
There are lots of factors that come into play when trying to secure a home loan, but the playing field isn't always even.
So you have same FICO scores, same same income, and the same property.
When those factors are equal, data reviewed by 9 Wants to Know showed Black and Latino Coloradans in the Denver metro area were almost 2 times more likely to be denied a mortgage. Muriel Williams-Thompson says it's the historical inequities that negatively impact people of color, one of them being lack of generational wealth.
If you don't have the generational wealth, if you don't have the generational knowledge of being able to pass on how to prepare for homeownership, there's obstacles.
She says the effects of redlining still exist today. That's the practice of banks denying loans in certain neighborhoods, most often where people of color live. And segregation was outlawed decades ago. But people of color are not evenly distributed across the Denver metro area.
There are still some concentrated areas where you have Black and brown families that live there mostly. Unfortunately, those are the areas that are targeted by a lot of investors.
There's a lot of gentrification going on in the city and county of Denver.
Sam Cardenas, a real estate broker, says gentrification plays another role into the cycle that makes homeownership difficult for some Black and Latino Coloradans to obtain. Another reason, he says, is historical mistrust in banking institutions.
There's a large segment of the population that don't trust banking institutions, and they have mattress money, where they save their money, they have savings, but it's just not in a bank.
Both realtors agree. It's a nation's history from the past that leaves lingering hardships in the present. For Next, I'm Victoria De Leon.
Nationally, that same study done by The Markup nonprofit newsroom revealed that people of color were 40 to 80% more likely to be denied a mortgage than white Americans. Muriel told us she thinks equitable lending and down payment assistance programs could address those disparities. We're going to talk now about the unimaginable heartbreak felt by parents who lose children, newborns specifically. In hospitals across Colorado, when a baby isn't born alive or dies soon after, the nurses will sometimes ask the parents, "Would you like a family photo?" A viewer wrote in to say when she was in that situation as a mother that she was shocked and taken aback by that question, but she's now eternally grateful that there's a nonprofit called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week supports that longtime nonprofit based out of Littleton that connects photographers with grieving families so they can preserve a memory in a moment of grief. A viewer named Jamie shared her family's photos, and she wrote to us, "Without them, without Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, my son's photo album would be full of empty spaces that match the ones that losing a child puts in your heart. There would be no beautiful pictures on my wall that remind us daily of our little Joshua. My heart smiles every time I look up and see that Joshua, although not here with us, will forever be a part of that one family picture, and because of that, will never be forgotten." Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep steps in to provide a service that grieving parents may not even know that they want or need in that moment. Jamie's story, and so many others like hers over the years, prove the value of that nonprofit's work. And Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep continues to expand its work, recruiting more volunteer photographers to reach more hospitals, dispatching them on a moment's notice when families suffer a loss. And the nonprofit is even training nurses how they can step in to take professional photos when a photographer isn't available. Text thanks to 303-871-1491 we'll send you that link to donate. And as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5. Our viewer, Jamie, wrote, "Letting them come in the day my son was born was the best decision we ever made. With our help, Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep will be able to reach more parents to offer that gift in their grief." The Denver Center for the Performing Arts isn't chancing another devastating shutdown, so they're doubling up on COVID protocols ahead of fall shows. And it's an iconic body of water in Colorado, but no one knows how it got there. A team is working to solve the Great Hanging Lake mystery. And the School of Mines is hunting for a new mascot.
Someone that represents mines, that works hard, but likes to have fun.
The Battle of the Burros, next. One of Colorado's most popular hiking trails is getting a rest right now. Hanging Lake survived a wildfire last year only to get surrounded by mudslides in Glenwood Canyon this summer. So the trail there is closed. And the lake water, which is muddy after the slides, is now clearing. Our Steve Steger got a look at the state of Hanging Lake and talked to scientists trying to keep it clear for when Coloradans return.
The Forest Service is conducting our initial assessments of the trail.
Not many people have been up here yet.
Just more soil and rocks.
Not since the mudslide sent debris just rocketing into Glenwood Canyon and all over the trail of Hanging Lake. Bibi Supukti is a forestry technician with the Forest Service, seeing all of this destruction for the first time.
Mother Nature is its own force.
The hike is a bit treacherous, but the payoff is still incredible.
I am amazed and happy that the lake is pretty much preserved at how it looks like before.
We see now clear water flowing over the waterfalls.
Justin Anderson is a hydrologist here and says even with all that crud that shut down the highway and the trail to Hanging Lake, the lake seems to have missed the worst of it. The water is returning to its beautiful blue-green shade from before the mudslides. How it's doing that is a bit of a mystery.
The water that's delivered to Hanging Lake goes through a network of subsurface flow paths. The system of subsurface flow paths is a bit of a mystery to us.
A mystery this team might soon solve with the help of a grant.
To come out here and conduct a dye tracing study. And so what that's going to teach us is where this water we see pouring down into Hanging Lake originates from.
Liz Roberts is an ecologist. She says while they have an idea where Hanging Lake's water comes from, this will help them narrow it down even more and perhaps take steps to make sure this lake stays beautiful as the nature around it does its thing.
It's always been on our list to do, but it seemed more pressing after the fire, especially protecting this whole area.
This whole beautiful area.
It's still beautiful and still intact.
For Next, I'm Steve Stager.
The Forest Service is trying to clean up that trail to the point that experienced hikers can use it again soon. I should note, Steve Stager rolled his ankle pretty badly on it today, but he describes himself as a subpar hiker. A new permanent trail to Hanging Lake designed to last up to 100 years is going to take a few years to build. So mask mandates, they've been described as kind of a holdover until we can get more people vaccinated. Get people vaccinated, get rid of the masks, right? The Denver Center for the Performing Arts is going to require masks and vaccinations for its shows this year. Policy starts October 1st and applies to all DCPA performances, including the ballet and the symphony. Anyone 12 or older must be fully vaccinated before attending a performance. Anybody older than 2 has to wear a mask inside. Children under the age of 12 have to show a negative COVID test to get in. This is a really strict policy. DCPA says it is aiming for layers of protection so it can stay open.
The discussions really stemmed from the fact that now we have the breakthrough variant. And so it's hard to know if a person had been vaccinated, if that was enough. And so we wanted to do as much as we could to protect the health and safety of folks in the theater.
Performers, they'll have to be vaccinated too. No masks, obviously. Crews backstage, vaccinated, and also masks. I'll have what the Hawk one table over is having. Are you sure about that, sir? And let's give donkeys the respect they've learned by helping to build Colorado.
Donkeys are amazing because they are so smart and so stoic.
The competition to become the next mascot of one of the best D2 football teams in America. Next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a fly-in dinner for one, al fresco. Our viewer Jeff was a table away from this guy in a patio of a hibachi restaurant in Fort Collins. Not sure what Jeff was having. Appears the hawk was having the rabbit. Quite rare. Don't get on us about this. This is nature. This is what it's like to live in Colorado. I think it's a very tasteful photo. Email the most Colorado thing you saw today to next@9news.com. So Ralphie's a great mascot, one of the best in college sports. Cam the Ram is legend too. Air Force's Falcons, they get camera time during the games. No one gives the Burros any love, except us here on Next, as the School of Mines looks for the next in its line of quite regal mascots.
He can't. I mean, he's not a fast burro.
Donkeys have a lot of admirable attributes, but not all are blessed with nimble hooves.
He's built for feed, not speed.
Burros have been a huge part of Colorado history.
But the right name is crucial.
Get him, Winky!
Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Blaster?
These two burros are vying for a job at the Colorado School of Mines.
We are doing tryouts for our new live mascot, Blaster. The next one will be the fourth Blaster.
Dean of Students Derek Morgan
run to the goalpost and back or something.
Is looking for the right one to replace the retiring Blaster.
Because of our connection with the mining industry over the years, and then the hard-workingness, that get after it mentality that burros have. I mean, they can do everything and make it look so easy and awesome like our students.
Carol Von Michaelis
Trying to surprise him a bit.
and her donkey Pepsi have a close connection with the university in Golden.
You got a mine student at your house?
We do. Yeah, we have a petrologist mine student right now.
Come on, handsome.
Brad Wan
Hup, hup. Yeah!
hopes Winky is the perfect face for the science and engineering school.
It's about skilled trades for me, and this school has that opportunity for students, and we would love to be a part of that.
These burros gotta be photogenic.
When you're doing a selfie, you do, oh, good boy. So you just go like this.
And have some giddy up.
That might be his Mach speed.
Ultimately, they just have to specialize in one thing.
You know, in Colorado, a burro's job is to put smiles on faces.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
Late this afternoon, Mines let us know that Winky and Pepsi will split Blaster duties. Winky, the fast one, will run at the home football games. Pepsi, built for comfort, not for speed, is going to be the social burro, posing as Blaster for photos at events like commencement. We're going to be back in a moment to talk about what we are doing together this week for a local nonprofit that comforts parents experiencing unimaginable grief. Then your feedback next. Grieving families who lose a baby at birth in Colorado are often given the opportunity to have a professional photographer come into their hospital room for the only family photo they'll have. Those photographers are recruited, trained, and dispatched by a nonprofit called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, which is based in Littleton. Your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week is helping them expand their work. If you text THANKS to 303-871-1491, I'll send you that link to join me in giving. A viewer, Jamie, wrote in to say, I cannot imagine the heartbreak that these photographers see over and over again. The professionalism and compassion they shared with us was beyond anything I could have imagined. Jamie said the photographs are treasures that families, hers included, will hold on to forever. And Jillia writes in tonight, says, you've done it again. Tears streaming down my face as I reach for my credit card for another worthy cause in Colorado. There are great people across the state doing wonderful things for our neighbors, and one of the least things we can do is bring something to your attention each week, as the combined generosity of this audience this past week surpassed $4.5 million. Robert says, too much Broncos coverage. Robert, that must have been another show. That wasn't us covering the Broncos. You see they named Teddy Bridgewater a starter? What do you think about that? Yeah, me too. All right, see you next time.